Welcome back to Breakfast Central. The Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has declared several sections of the Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria ADVAN Act 2022 unconstitutional in a ruling widely seen as a major victory for the Advertisers Association of Nigeria ADVAN. Now, the Advertisers Association of Nigeria ADVAN has said that its decision to take the apex regulatory body in the nation's advertising industry to court was to challenge some of the aspects of the agency's new law, which it described as clearly unconstitutional in their provisions, especially issues of outdoor advertising.
Well, the Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria, ADVAN, was established under the 2022 Act, replacing the former ADVAN as the country's main advertising regulator. Now, the Act introduced two key bodies, which happens to be the Advertising Standards Panel and the Advertising Offences Tribunal, to actually strengthen oversight of advertising content and industry conduct. The law also empowered a new governing council made up of representatives from major sector groups and other stakeholders. ADVAN's daily operations are led by a Director General who reports directly to the council and serves as its vice chairman. Well, this might sound a bit, confusing to some of our viewers who are wondering what ADVAN, and what happened in between. Why are there so many changes? 2022 Act and the likes. Don't worry. Joining us for more on this to explain on the role of the regulatory body is the president of the Advertisers Association of Nigeria, ADVAN, Mr. Osamede Uwubanmwen. I hope I got that. Uwubanmwen. Yes, I hope I got that correctly. Thank you so much for being here. So I'm going to say this. I think for me in particular, I've been following this story, especially when the 2022 Act came into play. If I recall, 2 years ago, I did notice a lot of changes belonging to some of the PR and advertisers groups, especially on WhatsApp. I did see a lot of trend. Communications were going on in the group. Does former APCON, now ARCON, do they have the powers to be able to do A, B, and C? For instance, out of home outdoor advertising, OH, and all that they can give you. Then there's also the issue of if you want to run certain ads before, they didn't have to pass through a particular process. Now the processes are there. There's also the digital aspect as well. That, you have to, before you start advertising. So many. But let's not, rush you with too many questions. Let's take them one at a time. So let's start off first with the origin of the body called APCON that has actually become ARCON, especially in 2022.
Yes. Thank you for having me. Before I start, my condolences to the entire nation on the passing of the general and then the lives we've lost. I hope we'll get the country in good state and do what we need to do to get the terrorists and the killers out of our sphere. So, at the beginning, and I will just be honest with you, APCON started during the military era. So I tried to bring some context to it. So it also started because a group of advertising agents practitioners felt they needed something from the government end to hold their members. That's why it was not Advertising Practitioner Council of Nigeria. So it was more of a practice body to get people to align to certain practice, what I mean? Standards. So over the years, like we as Nigeria have done, we moved from military to democracy, and we have carried certain things along without checking. That's why you also have a tribunal, which is most like a military word, you know what I mean? So tribunal is not normally a democracy kind of conversation. So became ARCON in a bid to start regulating the business of advertising and still keeping the practice of advertising. So you have a two-in-one body. So in normal circumstances, the practice body should have a conversation with the regulatory body, the regulatory body, and say, why are you regulating this way? There's no practice body to have those conversations. So it was now the owners of the associations like ADVAN to come up and start having such conversations, because there's no other person that will say this would not work and this will affect. But so if you draw it down from the 88 APCON during the military era, now 2002 it became ARCON, the regulatory body for the business. And over the 3 years, people have had issues and has led to a lot of several litigations, as you are aware. And this is why the courts are not taking the stand and decisions on those matters. So bring the history down, and you now understand where we're at and why it's a bit draconian in certain policies, because I believe it's still because it's one of the military creation that it was.
And now that you've established the fact that the courts have stepped in and it's less draconian and you've addressed some of the issues you had, let's go back a bit for the sake of our listeners who are just wondering what's ADVAN, can we break it down? You're president of ADVAN.
Yes.
What is ADVAN and what's their mandate?
Okay, so ADVAN is the Advertisers Association of Nigeria. It's a body collective of brand owners. So you hear a lot of advertisers, advertising, and all that in our industry. And let me just put it in a clear context. I normally say, not because I belong to this side. The brains and the wallet are the advertisers. We have the agencies who then work for us through our brief. Whatever they bring, we approve. So it's your thinking, your direction, they work, they come back, you approve. So the main body that does advertising in Nigeria are called the advertisers. So whoever you hear in the advertising industry was set up because of us and for us.
So if we would be fair to compare you to the Nigerian Bar Association for lawyers?
Yes.
Okay.
So with the main body. Then there are other bodies, so the Art of Home body, there's the media buying body. So it's us and every other person in the ecosystem. I kid you not, it's created to work for us because we have a need for them. And so that's why we need to champion such conversations, such regulatory, discussions, because it affects us. Anybody that affects outdoor affects us, and it affects the creative industry. So the Triple N affects us. Anybody in the ecosystem works for us.
Okay, so now let's talk about this latest court ruling by the Federal High Court with regards to vetting and regulating out-of-home advertising by ARCON. Can you break down what the implication of this is? Okay,
so the implication is very, very, very fundamental to the law. What it says to you now and to Nigerians is that there is a certain aspect of advertising, which is out of home, which is key, cannot be regulated by ARCON. And I will bring it to light. Okay, so in 2004, I was working in a multinational company, and we had issues with the whole local government people and branded vehicles. And we went back, and the legal director came back and said, they are empowered by law. So far back at 2004, we on this side of the divide had a feeling of what who controls outdoor. So the section is in Schedule 4. I'm not a lawyer because we had to get to know more about it. Yeah, legal team. So it says advertising and the holding. So advertising is the material. The holding is the body. You see what I'm saying? So it's a, and in most cases, I will always trust the Nigerian courts to always stick to the Constitution. And so that's why the Nigerian court has said it is not constitutional, because the Constitution has created it as a local government Schedule 4 item, and you cannot pick it. The way the court is the exclusive list for federal, and then the other people that can do that, you cannot then do someone else's own. It's not allowed. That's what they say, and it's a landmark ruling because it's part of what we had also said at the beginning, that there's some sections in this law that is not constitutional. I also want to bring you to the first case that was well publicized, the one that had to do with, ARCON had the right to vet digital material.
Exactly. I wanted to go there.
You guys need to read the CTC. The judge said, you cannot then fine them. So they summon you to the tribunal, and that part has gone, and then they fine you.
Okay.
And the judge said that fining them is unconstitutional and voided it because it's only courts. Remember the case of the broadcast NBC?
NBC.
It was the broadcast house that said, and the court still holds the same principle, that you cannot fine people that way. Bring them to court, let courts do the fining. So telling me I've done an infringement, bringing me to the ARCON tribunal and asking me to pay a fine, the court has also said you cannot make people pay fines. So the case is now getting clearer.
It's getting clearer, but I mean, for advertisers, especially practitioners, there's also a big challenge. I mean, we're still going to touch on the digital aspect, but there's a recent ruling, Mr. Bushi, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sure
the one that
you're-
has to do with the outdoor.
Yes, the outdoor, out of and the outdoor, Mr. Bushi,
Yeah.
and then of course you also have Akon coming through and saying you cannot advertise, and then they sued them for 1 million naira, and then we hear Mr. Bushi has won the case, and therefore they're also going to. Can you touch on that as well?
So it was based on they had an out of home display, and Akon was like, you didn't get vetting to display that. So this is an out of home.
Yes.
You didn't get vetting, get someone to tribunal, ask to pay $1 million. The conversation goes into when you go to the tribunal, who gets someone is the MD of the organization. And then whenever you pay, you are asked to plead guilty. So as an MD and EdCon, and it's a criminal offense. So advertising now has been criminalized. But they had the right to send you to jail. I kid you not.
Wow.
So you think you're just doing normal, you're in your office, and then one day, let me tell you how people don't think of implications. If I'm a smart guy, and you are the MD of a former company that has been found guilty, and I'm contesting against you in an election, I allow you to win. I go to tribunal. A criminal cannot hold any position in Nigeria. Political position, you don't give it to criminals in Nigeria. You see how I would just take that mantle from you. So when we're doing stuff, we should also understand what the implications are for the larger body. A politician that is an MD now, that goes to contest for a position, can lose it at the tribunal because I will summon Freedom of Information Act, get APCON to submit because you signed, whether in person or a representative on behalf of you, pleaded guilty, signed. So people need to understand how deep these laws go. It's not a criminal act. You can be sent to court, to jail rather.